Tuesday, February the 4th. Do you know what time it is? It's Al Sharpton's time. And for the next 3 hours, it's time to put aside all pretenses, deception, denial, or fronting. The time has come to keep it real on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. A very good afternoon to you all across the country. And good morning to our West Coast listeners. And welcome to those listening on Sirius XM, Channel 126, The Urban View, where talk empowers and become action. I'm coming to you live from our National Action Network corporate headquarters in New York. And for the next 3 hours, you can join the conversation. All you have to do is call me at 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797. And I'm going to have a new feature in a minute or two I'm going to announce. But let me say this, there's a lot to talk about. And I really, really am interested in hearing your thoughts and your views. First of all, the Senate panel, Senate Finance Committee, has now approved Robert Kennedy Jr. nomination as Health Secretary. Now it goes before the whole Senate. Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who had a lot of questions. He was a key swing vote. He ultimately supported Kennedy after receiving, as he said, this is in quotes, some serious commitments. I don't know what that is. From the administration on issues like healthy food and pro-American agenda. And I'm sure a little politics in there too. Now this, they just made, I want y'all to get this now. A man that said vaccines should not be used, even though he had vaccinated all of his kids. A man that had a history of being unclear about other health issues, was a conspiracy theorist around COVID. He is now out of committee and will be voted on by the entire Senate to be over health and human services. That's where we are. So for all of you that don't believe voting matters, if we have a breakout of something and this guy, who is a conspiracy theorist and who has a record of this, if he is the HHS secretary, will it matter to you then? Let's talk about that. Now, at the same time, Elon Musk and some of his young staffers stormed over to the U.S. aid and immediately started saying, y'all are fired, y'all move out. He wants to restructure. So now the Democrats came out yesterday, members of Congress and the Senate, and saying they are opposing having USAID under the State Department because now Rubio is now over the State Department, Secretary of State. He said, put them under me. Now, USAID is who gives funds to underdeveloped countries, has helped fund Ukraine, fund African nations, all of that. The restructuring has frozen the restructuring now under Trump has frozen all of the foreign assistance for at least 90 days, halting a lot of projects that deal with global health and energy and infrastructure rebuilding. You might remember when Biden was ending his tour, his term, he went to Eastern Africa, overseeing a railroad line built. All that would be held up. And China is hitting back after President Trump threatened a tariff. He said he being Trump said he's going to have a tariff of 10% on all Chinese goods. China has responded immediately with its own tariff on the United States goods, 10 to 15% of key U.S. exports, including coal, liquefied natural gas, crude oil, agricultural machinery, and large automobiles. So you're in the midst of what is apparently going to be a trade war. The real question becomes, with all this upheaval, is why are Americans the ones that are going to have to pay for all of these changes that Trump has said? Same time, we're still fighting over DEI. Trump, Elon Musk, and the whole Republican crowd is continuing to say that diversity, equity, and inclusion cannot happen in the federal government, and they ended it, and they are asking private corporations to do the same. We have said in National Action Network that we're about 30 days in, or a little less than 30, on our 90-day study. We have some economists and activists studying which company we're going to boycott, and at the same time, we're doing boycotts with companies that have said they will not drop DEI. They're going to stay with us. One of the things I think people need to understand about DEI is DEI covers blacks, browns, disabled, LGBTQ, and white women. But they have colored it black because that's the way they can sell it. Well, I think you need to really, really understand that if we let this go, then we will have a country that will be able to step back, step away in all commitments to repairing the damage done to our country. So us in our country, I'm particularly in the black community and other communities. So a lot to talk about. Let me say about a new feature. You can watch the show live stream as I'm doing this show by going to www.nationalactionnetwork.net or on Facebook. So starting today, I'm not only live on radio, I'm live streaming on our National Action Network site. And you can also call in and be heard on the air, 1-877-532-5797, or you can make comments. And I'm reading some comments as I'm speaking now. So you can make comments, and I'm going from the air to the comments. The people that call in at 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797. So I think we have trying to use every way we can communicate. I met with our media tech department, and I said to Brother Trollinger, who does it, we need to expand so people can see it, people can comment on it, and people can call the radio shows from whatever stations we're on around the country, because we are at a war of disinformation, and we need to be able to give information at every vehicle possible, because that's what they're using. One of the things that Donald Trump did that was smart is they bought a lot of time during the Super Bowl last year, and a lot of time during the wrestling matches. So they had these commercials running repeatedly and energizing their crowd, acting as if Kamala Harris was going to have trans people playing with your children and all, and they were not answered. So I'm trying to do all we can and all we should do to get the information out. So go to nationalactionnetwork.net or Facebook, and you can watch this radio show as I'm doing it, or you can, of course, call in, and you can call in at 877-532-5797. And I see on the live stream line, Mr. Mayor Rodney Jones saying no justice, no peace. I can see your comments as we do the show, but you that want to say something, call in at 1-877-532-5797. Let's get ready to take our break, and I want to line up our calls, and people can hear you all over the country, every state and every region of the country. 1-877-532-5797. Sharpton, keeping it real. I'll be right back. Keeping it real.
Breaking news. The issues, the stories affecting you. Now here's the news from News1.com.
It's Sybil Wilkes with what we need to know. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said President Trump has agreed to pause proposed tariffs on Canada for 30 days. Trudeau announced the news in a post on X, also known as Twitter, hours after Trump paused planned tariffs on Mexico for 1 month. Said Canada will implement a $1.3 billion plan to reinforce the border aimed at stopping the flow of
That's your pops in there, right?
Oh, my God. Can you put the walkers in the bottom for me? All right, he's going to get you. Excuse me, sir. Were you giving out cards? All right, let's go. Bus one. Yeah, that's all right. We got to go left. Bus one. Let's go. You talking to me?
Yeah, I thought she said she was in the front seat to the left.
Yeah, this one right here.
That's where she is. That's the left. Okay, all right.
We in here.
We went to Washington. This was the bus.
Because we didn't have much late.
My G.
Yeah, right.
We're only going to 116th Street. It's not
This is already fast. Hey. It's good to see you. That's nice.
Tie your shirt to the front end for the messaging. Jay.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion in the private sector.
one of the managers. This is. And I'm retiring in 5 days. Yes. My new Vito.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Don't tear out my floor.
They're on your side. Don't stop. Don't stop.
We're there with you last week.
Yep.
You're going to make piano lessons. Yes, you got a piano lesson.
Hey, D. Go to.
Well, I'm getting some hamburger meat, some eggs, and some chicken. With the help of our Sharpton.
National Action Network. How you doing? You got any?
All right.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
All over the country and now live on www.nationalactionnetwork.net, or you can write in comments or on YouTube as well. And during the commercials, we black it out, so hang on. I'll be back. I'm doing the show live stream and radio every day. Now, let me remind you, and I'm going to the phones. We got a lot of calls. I'm going to everybody. Let me remind you to watch Politics Nation with Al Sharpton live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on MSNBC every Saturday and Sunday. And we had great guests this weekend. And as I always tell you, frequent listeners, we get the ratings on Tuesday morning. We had about 1.5 million people over the weekend watching the show. Even though it was Grammy weekend, a lot of people was watching entertainment shows. We had our audience and more. Keep supporting the shows One, because it gives information, and the information I try to get, one, I get the people right in the mix. That's why I had the mayor of Chicago on himself, the mayor of Birmingham on himself on what's going on with ICE raids. I had the senator on that's in the finance committee on these impeachments. And I'm going to ask each one of them, what about black folks? Where do we fit in this? Make sure you support the show Saturday and Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on MSNBC. All right, and you that are in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut region, meet me or beat me to the Saturday Action Rally at the House of Justice in Harlem. Every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. I will be there this Saturday looking for you. You that are not in the New York area, you can watch it live on Impact Television. And you that are in the western part of the United States, on Thursday, we are going to be in Pasadena, First AME Church, where 4 of the families that died had death in the family as a result of the wildfires that burned down various parts of Southern California, the Palisades and other parts, and Altadena, which is a black area. For those families that lost a loved one, I'm going to do the memorial service there at First AME for those 4 families. Many in the national media has forgotten Altadena. And I'm saying, no, Trump went out there and never went there. I am giving sympathy and prayers to everybody that lost a loved one. But I also think that everyone includes us. So I'm going to do what Trump and them wouldn't do. So I'm going to be out there Thursday. You in L.A., you in Pasadena, you in all of that area. Meet me at First AME Church in Pasadena, 11 a.m. Thursday, day after tomorrow. And we'll be there with those 4 families, Attorney Ben Crump and others. All right. Let's get ready to go to the phone, 1-877-532-5797. Let me start with Ozzy. Ozzy's in Cincinnati, the Buzz. Ozzy, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you.
Sir, when I say me and I don't think most people would think of merit, excellence, and intelligence. But that's what they renamed DEI. And I just want to say that as much as I despise what Trump has done through DNI, it still must be stated that DNI benefited white women, the LGBTQ community, and Hispanics more than it did the Native Americans and descendants of slaves.
And let me push you on that, Ozzy, because I think somebody just said in the chat, why aren't white women talking more about DEI when they benefited from it? They have tried to make the appeal to racism by acting like DEI was only for blacks, like they tried to act like affirmative action was only for blacks. And why aren't we calling out some of these white women organizations that why aren't you out there with National Action Network and others? Because y'all benefited from this.
Well, for the same reason, I believe that a lot of black people, when we talk about affirmative action and DEI, we associate it with black people when it doesn't really affect it. So it's always about the illusion. And it doesn't matter who in the leadership of politics creates the illusion, we're going to be blinded by the light. And the only course to understanding the reality of this world is having the opportunity to be able to listen to you to be able to communicate with you. And until we figure out that there's just a few portholes that teaches us the truth, we're going to be easily misled, both the white community, the black community, the Hispanic community, and the LGBTQ, because they don't want us to know the truth.
Yeah, that's how we ended up with Trump. Thank you for your call, Ozzy. Lori Parks, I see you. You're writing me on the webpage. I see you, Lori. That's one of the great activists in this country. I love Lori. Let's go to Rick in Germany. Rick, you keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I would like to congratulate you on going visual. I know that for an old man, you look pretty good after slimming down and losing a little weight. I wish you had more time to devote on your show the positive of going, if not vegetarian, then reducing meat, alcohol, and cigarettes, so forth and so on. I wish you had a little more time for that. But I called to talk about the plane crash.
Okay.
The plane crash in D.C. I think Trump tried to blame DEI, and he didn't say specifically what he meant by that, whether or not he considered DEI to be disabled people working for the air traffic controllers, or whether he considered the pilots of the helicopter DEI because some of them were women. He didn't say specifically. He just said DEI was to blame. And I think the crash will be exposed not as DEI, but
got to go right back to him.
Potential.
Hold on 1 minute. Hold on a minute. I hear the music. I got to take a break. I want you to come back. Hold on so we can talk about this, Rick, because it's very important. This man, Donald Trump, the president, blamed the crash on DEI before any of the bodies had even been taken out of the Potomac River. So he had a briefing. He knew there were no blacks. He knew there were no Latinos. He may not have known there was only one woman. So why did he throw that out there to try and do this as a way of DEI and it's a black thing and all? That was a connotation because he never was specific like Rick said. This is deliberate. Let's take a break. Again, we're on live on www.National Action Network live stream. I see Archbishop Christopher McCarter wrote me a note on live stream. I'm watching y'all while y'all watching me, and I'm doing the radio hotline. Those that are calling in so they can be heard. We'll be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back.
Keeping it real.
Let me also give a salute to our staff here in New York and our chapters around the country around last week's Martin Luther King celebration. And it was a mixture of challenge and celebration. Celebrating not only the life of Dr. King, but celebrating the holiday. You know, a lot of people just take things for granted. And sometimes you need to stop and pause and look at what you're looking at. Reverend Al Sharpton, and we are back. 1-877-532-5797. We're also live at nationalactionnetwork.net, live streaming live and on YouTube. Let's go back to Rick calling from Germany in Europe. Go ahead.
Am I on, brother?
Yes, you're on.
Okay, I just want to say that I think Trump is going to strike at the air traffic controllers to make an example not only of minorities but also of women in the workplace. And I think it's the beginning. It's the beginning of the end for oh man, I just lost my thought. But I think Trump is going to wage war against women in the workplace, as well as racial minorities and gay people. I'm done, brother man.
All right, thank you for your call from Germany. And I think that there is certainly an effort to provoke something that they're prepared to, if there's a provocation that works, they're prepared to handle in a very paramilitary way. I really believe that. And that's why I'm saying we must be strategic. Like we're in the middle of planning this boycott that we announced on January 20th. 90 days, we're going to come back with, this is our findings. These are the ones we think we can hit and be successful. In the interim, we've been doing the what we call boycotts, supporting those that support us. We got to stay active. These people are depending on us to go to sleep. Let me go to Jerry in Cleveland, Ohio, WERE. Jerry?
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
I was wondering if you heard this. I was watching The View, and I think, can't think of her name offhand, but Sonny. She brought up, she made the comment that Marco Rubio, had put as his second in command a guy that said that he believes only whites should be in charge of cabinets and all positions. Did you hear something like that?
Yeah, I've heard a report on that. I'm trying to get it verified, but I've seen it early. You know, I get up early in the morning, work out early. I saw it early this morning on Yahoo News and forwarded it to our staff over at Politics Nation. And we're trying to verify, but I don't think Sonny Houston would have said it if she had not checked it out. This guy is being brought in the State Department right under Rubio, and it has been reported by some credible sources, credible enough for Sonny Houston anyway, to say that he said it. This is over the State Department. Now, this is at a time now. Let's not forget, Jerry, that yesterday, I ain't talking about back in the day, yesterday, Donald Trump, President of the United States, said that there is a I'm trying to say the name right. I don't want to name it wrong. Repatriation, that's what I'm looking for. Repatriation bill pending in South Africa to deal with those that got property, land, under apartheid by means that was unfair and based on race. Repatriation bill in South Africa. Trump said, as President of the United States, that they would end the aid, foreign aid, and HIV money they're giving South Africa if they didn't stop the repatriation bill. And of course, the president of South Africa, Ramaphosa, came out, who I know, and said that, and clarify, wait a minute, we're talking about people that have illegally or under racial terms took advantage of the land. Can you imagine this now? He said, I'm going to stop the aid if you deal with legislation of people that did racist and criminal acts in South Africa. Now, does that have something to do with the fact? Does that have something to do with the fact that Elon Musk was born in South Africa under apartheid? I'm just asking a question.
One thing I want to know is, could you tell me what you know about this new DNC chairman? And before you start, I want to make the comment, Democrats better start speaking out, because I'm sick of them being so quiet. And I'm talking about these senators and congressmen. I'm sick of them being so quiet, especially when it comes to things about blacks. A big deal was made when Asians were attacked. Big deal was made when the Jewish people were attacked unfairly. Even Native Americans. But nothing's ever said when we're attacked unfairly. We'll hear your voice, but unless they're on your show or Joy Reid's show, they don't say anything.
Well, I can't argue against that, because I am of the same view that there's been radio silence. That is why you have people like me. And then they get mad at us, why we always had to hear Sharpton. Well, it's not like I got to get in line to do it. It is amazing to me. Where's everybody, even on DEI, even on what he just said about South Africa. But you're right. In terms of the new DNC chair, he's been the chair in Minnesota. His name is Ken Martin. And I got a call from one of his people last night that he's supposed to call me. I think Antoine Seawright said on this show yesterday that they were going to come see us. I don't know him, and I'm not one that bites my tongue in private meetings or public. They got to hit the ground and really convince our community that we are voting for something that's in our interest. Not that we just doing Democrat to be doing Democrat. We need y'all out here on DEI, on what is happening in terms of our economic opportunities. And killing DEI is going to kill our dealing with a lot of economic options. Y'all need to be out here.
Right.
And if they're not going to speak our interest, then that is why it is difficult to get some of us out. You're absolutely right. Thank you, Jerry. Let me go to Deborah in Atlanta, Georgia, WAOK. Deborah.
Hi, thanks for taking my call, Reverend Sharpton. I wanted to speak about DEI also, and I love the caller who said that spoke about white women. But that being said, and everybody knows me, who knows me, knows that I'm not prejudiced. And for people who don't know me, understand I'm not prejudiced, but I am going to say this. This is where our attorneys come in, okay? When we look at things coming off the shelves at Target, Walmart, and Sam's, there are some white women who have things on those shelves also. You need to research that and get those product names and get those individuals to make sure that those products are coming off those shelves also. We need to make sure that this is fair around the board until we get some type of control over it. So we can't just have black products coming off the shelves when we know for a fact that LGBTQ and white women had taken something that we created because of the inequities and the unfairness that we were being treated as black people, individuals, and they used it. So when we see products coming off the shelf, we shouldn't just see black and brown people. We should see those products. I don't care if it's a Maybelline, L'Oreal, whatever product it is, it needs to come off those shelves too, and that's where our attorneys come in. When we think about not giving aid to a country,
yeah,
that's where our churches come in.
Yeah.
You got those airplanes. you go to those countries anyway. You say you go over there, you give them, you go over there, you preach over there and do things. Take aid over there. So this is not to talk bad about black churches or any churches. It doesn't have to be a black
No,
church.
it's to challenge us to do and be what we say we are. I definitely love your call. Thank you, Deborah. And I love your call. And I'm reading Laurie Parks is saying, what happened to the $5 Harriet Tubman bill, Rosa Parks bill? We need to have Ida B. Wells. I'm reading you. I've not heard about the Rosa Parks $5 bill. These are the things the Democrats need to address and stay on. This is real, y'all. Real life. We only been here one time. If we get reincarnation, we should do it again. We come back for you that believe in that. But I only know I got one, and I'm going to max that one out. Let's take a break. Sharpton, that's my name. Keeping it real, that's what I do. Be right back. Up to 351. Where Frederick Douglass lay. Don't stand on the ground where Rosa Parks lay, unless you're going to really do what it is we committing to do. Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against wickedness, principalities, wickedness in high places. I want everyone, if you are resolved, to just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name, Al Sharpton, do solemnly commit that I will stand up and rise up in the name of Dr. King, in the name of Frederick Douglass, in the name of Rosa Parks, and I will defend equality for all, diversity, equality, inclusion, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, immigration rights. I commit, I take this oath that I will not become like those I'm fighting. I'm not for violence, but I will peacefully stand against those that want to bring us down. I commit this in the house of God, on this sacred ground. So help me God. Congratulate yourself. While you're standing, I want all the ministers to come. Let's join arms. When they would march in the South, I used to think it was a little too moderate for me. But as I read my history and got to know some of the lieutenants of Dr. King, I realized it took a lot of strength to face biting dogs, to face sheriff's club nightsticks, and somehow with no defense at all, they look at biting dogs in Birmingham, where Frederick Douglass laid. Don't stand on the ground where Rosa Parks lay, unless you're going to really do what it is we committing to do. Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against wickedness, principalities, wickedness in high places. I want everyone, if you are resolved, to just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name, Al Sharpton, do solemnly commit that I will stand up and rise up in the name of Dr. King, in the name of Frederick Douglass, in the name of Rosa Parks, and I will defend equality for all, diversity, equality, inclusion, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, immigration rights. I commit, I take this oath that I will not become like those I'm fighting. I'm not for violence, but I will peacefully stand against those that want to bring us down. I commit this in the house of God on this sacred ground. So help me God. Congratulate yourself. While you're standing, I want all the ministers to come. Let's join arms. When they would march in the South, I used to think it was a little too moderate for me. But as I read my history and got to know some of the lieutenants of Dr. King, I realized it took a lot of strength to face biting dogs, to face sheriff's club nightsticks, and somehow with no defense at all, they look at biting dogs in Birmingham, where Frederick Douglass laid. Don't stand on the ground where Rosa Parks laid, unless you're going to really do what it is we committing to do. Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against wickedness, principalities, wickedness in high places. I want everyone, if you are resolved, to just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name, Al Sharpton, do solemnly commit that I will stand up and rise up in the name of Dr. King, in the name of Frederick Douglass, in the name of Rosa Parks, and I will defend equality for all, diversity, equality, inclusion, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, immigration rights. I commit, I take this oath that I will not become like those I'm fighting. I'm not for violence, but I will peacefully stand against those that want to bring us down. I commit this in the house of God on this sacred ground. So help me God. Congratulate yourself. While you're standing, I want all the ministers to come. Let's join arms. When they would march in the South, I used to think it was a little too moderate for me. But as I read my history and got to know some of the lieutenants of Dr. King, I realized it took a lot of strength to face biting dogs, to face sheriff's club nightsticks, and somehow with no defense at all, they look at biting dogs in Birmingham, where Frederick Douglass laid. Don't stand on the ground where Rosa Parks laid, unless you're going to really do what it is we committing to do. Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against wickedness, principalities, wickedness in high places. I want everyone, if you're resolved, to just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name, Al Sharpton, do solemnly commit that I will stand up and rise up in the name of Dr. King, in the name of Frederick Douglass, in the name of Rosa Parks, and I will defend equality for all, diversity, equality, inclusion, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, immigration rights. I commit, I take this.
Just keep it real. Live from the National Action Network corporate headquarters in New York, keeping it real. And now, America's #1 civil rights leader, the Reverend Al.
You're live.
Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, 1-877-532-5797, or you can go on now, starting today, live stream at www.nationalactionnetwork.net or on YouTube. And I'm seeing Forensic Accountant and Lori Parks, y'all cutting up there on these messages. I'm reading y'all in the breaks. Let's go back to the phone. Let me go to Gary in Philadelphia, WURD, 900 AM in Philadelphia. Go ahead, Gary.
Good day, Brother Al.
Good day.
Hope all is well with you and your family. You know, that farm thing in South Africa, if people remember, when Mugabe was around, that was something that existed then.
In Zimbabwe.
So, I don't know. Yeah, Zimbabwe. Well, anyhow, that was Zimbabwe. Okay, so, but still it's almost the same kind of feeling that's going on, because I don't think that number 47, which I call him, can think back to something like that. There's got to be someone else that is from that part of area that is fisting in his ear to do certain things. I mean, they're all over the place.
Yeah, well, I said you're right. I said as we were going to break, let's not forget that Elon Musk was born in South Africa under apartheid. So I don't think he was. That's where he's from. He's born in South Africa. So it does not take much of an inquiring mind to say, well, is Elon Musk pushing him to do this, and did his family in some illegal way confiscate land due to apartheid and white supremacy at that time? I mean, why all of a sudden is Donald Trump, who's in the middle of now arguing with tariffs with Mexico and Canada and China, going to jump to South Africa and get in their repatriation bill? Why? Somebody had to bring it and put it on his desk.
And interesting, right? When he was number 45, none of this stuff came out.
Right.
None of this ever, nothing. So this is a new thing, just based on someone else whispering in his ear, and this is what he's followed up on, because I don't think number 47 has the brain power to even think about doing some of the things that's going on. I really don't.
But going back, I think you're making a great point. Thank you for your call. And going back, Gary, to a previous segment, we had called somebody the Democratic Party. They need to be up in the Congress today saying you better not block aid to South Africa. See, what I'm saying is you cannot let him flood the zone. What he does, I want y'all to hear me now, he floods the zone by throwing out 3 or 4 things a day. So all you hear is Trump, 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 Trump doing this. Most people don't even stop and listen to what he's doing. They just know he's doing something and they feel he's the only one doing something because that's all they're hearing. That's why I'm saying, and that's why, hundreds of you went with us, that you can't give him Martin Luther King holiday. Go to Washington with us. He can have his inauguration one side of town. We'll have our rally on the other side of town. And we did. And they had to deal with our story of dealing with starting a 90-day study to do a boycott. We cannot let him flood the zone. If you're not in the issue, you won't get the solution. The idea, people have asked me all my life, what does marching do? Marching makes them have to deal with an issue. It's the drama. If you don't bring the issue out dramatically, they're not going to deal with your issue. They don't want to deal with your issue. Marching doesn't solve a problem, it exposes a problem. And those in the Congress and the Senate ought to be standing up there. I would have been there early if I was in the Senate. And say, wait a minute, what is the South African thing? We vote on budgets. We vote on foreign affairs. I'm calling on Secretary of State Rubio to say immediately they're not going to mess with South Africa and let those people in South Africa adjudicate who's guilty or not criminally of racially taking land they shouldn't have gotten. Thank you for your call. Let's go to Raj. Raj in Cleveland, Ohio, WERE. Raj.
Hey, Reverend, how you doing? Thanks for taking my call.
I'm doing well.
All right. Yesterday you asked what should we do going forward, or learn from the past, learning from.
Right. It's Black History Month. I said, what is there a particular item in Black history that you think can be instructive for us today? You're right.
Okay. Well, if this connects, I think we need to learn definitely not just Black history, but both sides of American history. I'm including that. I'm including Black history as American history, but also history with the relevant side of white history that had an influence on how we got to where we were. See, the reason why I say that'll bring the picture full circle, because there's a lot of so-called conscious blacks. They have a lot of history, a lot of knowledge, but they didn't vote, or they don't vote. They don't understand the political side of things, how it works, and how it plays a part in as small as it may be at certain times or seem, it still plays a significant part in where we are today. And they're missing they're missing the big picture because they're missing too many of the smaller parts.
Right. Right. Now, I agree with that. I think that many of us, the old folks used to say when I was growing up, it's too smart for our own good. A lot of us have a lot of knowledge, but unapplied knowledge. If you don't apply knowledge, it almost doesn't matter that you have it. But it needs to be broken down where people understand how this connects with this. And
there you go. Right.
And that's what you're saying, and I think you're right. Voting connects with empowering somebody like Trump, who is in many ways been now captured by an Elon Musk to take a shot at South Africa. But you got to connect those dots so people understand, okay, well, that makes sense. But just saying it is your civil duty to vote, that is not going to turn on a lot of people that are not civilly conscious. Let's go to Demetrius. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I'm saying they like, you got a lot of so-called conscious people. They don't even know about the Southern strategy or the history of the Southern strategy.
That's Black history, too.
Council.
That's right. That's Black history, too. That's right. That's right. You're absolutely. I have met brothers and sisters in Harlem that knew more about what happened in Egypt, and they should. We all should. Then they knew what happened 50 years ago in Mississippi.
That's my point right there. That's my point. And they miss how So when it's time to move the chess pieces as a whole, we don't have everybody on board because they're missing the piece, the smaller pieces that give them perspective to get on board.
Right.
But that's it. I had a couple
All right.
more, but go ahead.
All right, I got a lot of calls. Thank you for your call, Raj. Let me go to Demetrius in Cleveland, Ohio, WERE. Demetrius.
Hey, thank you very much, Sharpton. It's good talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to speak on just quickly. Thank you. Concerning the South African situation, Donald Trump comment, cut off aid. If you feel like that, I believe he know what he's doing because he want to cut off aid, to African Americans here and the Hispanics. So, South Africa has pretty much imitated the United States when it came to apartheid and slave codes and discrimination here in America. So I believe they feel like that the South African people should take control of the diamond mines there, and other resources. Because when they came into power, they was, fair enough to still let, some of the people who, ran the apartheid government still control those businesses. But if Bush feel like, he want to take away the rights from the South African people who suffered inequalities throughout the years there, well, I feel like, South African people should have more control of the business, the diamond mines and so forth, so they won't have to depend on aid from the United States. They have enough money there in that country, they can be independent. And also...
and they have the resources in order to be independent.
They do have the resources. So if they can't appreciate when Nelson Mandela became president, he was making it fair for all people there in South Africa. He didn't do like what they did in Uganda when Idi Amin took over. He got rid of everyone. I'm not saying it was good for the country, but he got rid of everyone, just let Ugandans run the country. But Nelson Mandela didn't do that. He said, well, we're going to, let all people live in South Africa be included. So, but it seems that Musk, he want to use the big stick of the United States to try and influence the South African government and retard South African people for getting their just rights, moving up in the business and getting a fair education.
Hold on 1 minute. I'll come right back to you, Demetrius. We'll be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton right after this. Where Rosa Parks lay. Unless you're going to really do what it is we committing to do.
The issues.
Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against wickedness, principalities, wickedness in high places. I want everyone, if you're resolved, to just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name, Al Sharpton, do solemnly commit that I will stand up and rise up in the name of Dr. King, in the name of Frederick Douglass, in the name of Rosa Parks, and I will defend equality for all, diversity, equality, inclusion, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, immigration rights. I commit, I take this oath that I will not become like those I'm fighting. I'm not for violence, but I will peacefully stand against those that want to bring us down. I commit this in the house of God, on this sacred ground. So help me God. Congratulate yourself. While you're standing, I want all the ministers to come. Let's join arms. When they would march in the South, I used to think it was a little too moderate for me. But as I read my history and got to know some of the lieutenants of Dr. King, I realized it took a lot of strength to face biting dogs, to face sheriff's club nightsticks, and somehow with no defense at all, they look at biting dogs in Birmingham, where Frederick Douglass laid. Don't stand on the ground where Rosa Parks lay, unless you're gonna really do what it is we committing to do. Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against wickedness, principalities, wickedness in high places. I want everyone, if you are resolved, to just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name, Al Sharpton, do solemnly commit that I will stand up and rise up in the name of Dr. King, in the name of Frederick Douglass, in the name of Rosa Parks, and I will defend equality for all, diversity, equality, inclusion, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, immigration rights. I take this oath that I will not become like those I'm fighting. I'm not for violence, but I will peacefully stand against those that want to bring us down. I commit this in the house of God, on this sacred ground. So help me God. Congratulate yourself. While you're standing, I want all the ministers to come. Let's join arms. When they would march in the South, I used to think it was a little too moderate for me. But as I read my history and got to know some of the lieutenants of Dr. King, I realized it took a lot of strength to face biting dogs, to face sheriff's club nightsticks, and somehow with no defense at all, they look at biting. Good morning. When I was Good morning. When I was very young, coming into my teen years, just approaching them, and I began being mentored by civil rights leaders and ministers, a teacher at that time in the movement, a movement teacher, began having me read books not only about movement and about theology, but about visualization and controlling my mind and projection of thought. And one of the lessons he taught me was to begin to act, not only visualize who and what you wanted to become, Al. He said, act like it. Take on the personality, the bearing, the carriage, the thinking of what and who you wanted to become. Take it on now and grow into it. Let your behavior be like you've already become who you dream of becoming. So much so that some of the old folks in the church would say he acts like an old man. And there's something about that I found over the years to be true. If you take on the countenance and temperament, going back to our weekend assignment, of the person that you ultimately seek and have this insatiable appetite to be, you will grow into actualizing that in your reality. Already wear the crown even before you sit on that throne. Have the regal bearing, thinking, behavior, and impact, so that when your reality actualizes you getting there, you already fit there because you have already made yourself become that. So your reality will complement what you've already not only desired to be, but have refined yourself to be by your behavior, by your thinking, by your action, by your manners, by what you engage, by what you entertain, by what you converse with, by what you allow in your presence, by what you don't allow, by the boundaries. At that number, and I'm reading as we're now on live stream at www.nationalactionnetwork.net, and I'm reading some of your messages, and I am also on YouTube. All this live at the same time. Let me go to George in Georgia. George? I'm sorry, wait a minute, George. I didn't finish Demetrius. I promised Demetrius to hold on. Demetrius, go back to Demetrius in Cleveland, and then we'll come to George.
Hey, thank you. I'll be brief, Brother Sharpton. I just want to say, when it comes to DEI, like y'all spoke earlier, everyone should get involved, other groups, but especially women. Because you look at the Donald Trump cabinet, it seems that he's only picking women, that appeal to the public or appeal to him. To me, that shows a sexist type of attitude. Not saying that attracting women, is not qualified for positions. When you have the number of women that he have, who are attractive to most people, to me, maybe one he choosing women for those positions because of their looks or because of their qualifications, their expertise in those positions. If you have that type of attitude on choosing people for positions, that shows how his attitude is, the feelings are, when putting people in qualified positions in the federal government. And that same attitude goes down to other positions in this country, that he wants to stand up for women to have. It's more of the sexist type of view. And when it goes to sending the immigrants to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, that prison there was for terrorists like what happened in Afghanistan, the terrorists who we sent there, and then from ISIS. The immigrants here, some of them not even come close to being terrorists. The government try to make them out in the Donald Trump government, but to send them there, label them as terrorists, they may not have any type of rights there to be treated in any kind of way. That's outrageous. That's, to me, breaking the world court laws. So I believe the world court and the United Nations should step in if he does send them there. won't have any type of rights. And also when it comes to the FBI, he's one of the FBI agents, who involved the case going after the January 6th rioters. To me, that's giving the impression for anyone else who wants to rise up against the government, against a fair election. He gave them the okay, say, I'm going to make sure that the federal government...
Well, he's not only giving them that okay, he's encouraging them that you do whatever you want to do. I got you. I mean, that's what he's doing. All you have to do, when Barack Obama was president, there was the killing of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. I remember it like it was yesterday. Family called me, asked me would I go out and do the eulogy at the funeral, which I did. And we had rallies at local churches and protests. And we met with some of the youngsters saying, look, y'all going to get in trouble. Looting and all, that's not going to get us the police indicted. A couple of them looted, got arrested, and was charged. A couple of them got time in jail. Suppose if Barack Obama had pardoned them young black guys who, with their anger, rioted in Ferguson, not at the Capitol, in the hood, they would have impeached Obama, saying that you're condoning violence and you're condoning an upheaval. Trump had the riot at the Capitol where they assaulted law enforcement, and he got reelected. And then pardoned the guys. I mean, I just want to give it to you graphically because people don't understand how outrageous that is. I raised this to some guys. I was at a gathering, and some white conservatives was there. When I laid out that Obama-Ferguson, Missouri analogy, they said, I never thought about it that way. I mean, what are y'all endorsing here?
That's true. That's true. They're endorsing a double standard when it comes to justice, when it comes to race. And those who don't call him on his actions, they give the impression like they are endorsing on what he's doing. What you said earlier, if the Congress don't stand up, what's happening, the policy he want to put towards South Africa withholding aid, that reflected Congress because they already voted for that aid. Same way when it comes to other programs here that he wants to cut,
right.
Congress voted for that aid. So they're giving up their authority as part of the Constitution to make laws to him.
Why would we vote to send people to the Senate and the Congress if they're going to acquiesce and say just whatever Trump said we'll do? Well, then there's no reason to send you. All right. Well, thank you for your call. Let me go to George in Georgia. George. I do not hear George. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air.
Greetings. Okay. Greetings, Reverend Sharpton.
Greetings.
Yes. I'm so glad to be able to speak to you. I met you over 25 years ago in backstage of the Radio City Music Hall at a Aretha Franklin concert.
Oh, yeah.
You was fighting for, you were fighting for jobs. I was like 19.
Wow.
I'm 63. I'm 63 now.
Wow. Yeah, I every time Aretha came to town, I was right backstage with her.
And I remember, that's why I always tell people that, Sharpton. I said, listen, man, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. This man been in the streets forever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And I'm originally from Georgia, but I lived in Harlem. I lived in New York in the 80s. 80 to about 89, I lived in Georgia. I lived in New York.
Right.
So
Days
I
was
was in
some.
Harlem. I was down on 126th Street and Lenox Avenue in that area.
Yeah, that's backstage. That's backstage at Apollo. Yeah. That's some rough times. You in New York doing Howard Beach and Bensonhurst, 80 to 89.
Oh yeah. Man, I was there, man. I'm telling you, and I remember you.
I was
at
there.
That concert because you were speaking out because you were saying that. Listen, it's a lot of these young black guys and girls who need jobs, and all these black artists going to these big venues, and and you were just saying,
Not
hey,
giving us
listen,
jobs. No, you're right. I was saying,
exactly,
why all these black artists working for the white promoters and not making them
right,
hire us?
and they let you in. You was at the back door, and
That's
they
right.
and Aretha, I guess Aretha told them to let you in.
That's right.
Because somebody came out and said, "Okay, the Reverend Sharpton, come on in."
That's right.
And you get
Aretha
on
did.
in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was working for a guy named Sparky Martin at
Yeah, I
the time.
remember Sparky Martin. I know Sparky. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. And he was one of the black promoters I wanted them to give work to. Sparky was one of the bright guys, and they would not give him the big acts.
Exactly, because he was doing a little something with the Isley Brothers.
That's
Matter of
right.
fact, he did the Between the Sheets
Yep.
promotion.
Yeah,
with the
Sparky
Isley
Martin
Brothers.
used to do the Isley Brothers, used to do LaBelle before it was just Patti LaBelle. He'd do LaBelle. Yeah, you're right. You know what you're talking about.
Ain't no doubt about it. God is my witness. I won't get on here and lie. But I would really wanted to say to you, I'm not against activism and people going forth and and speaking out when people are being damaged or hurt by certain policies and things. But I really believe we do need to look at, because deep in my heart, I'm a Christian. I gave my life to the Lord some time ago.
Right.
And Donald Trump fits the exact profile of 2 Thessalonians 2:3. And I mean, I know there's some that don't care. Your audience might not go with my faith tradition,
right?
But as a Christian, I am compelled to believe the word of God concerning as a Christian, and
wait a minute. Let me take my break. And I'll come right back to you, George, after the break, and you can finish your thought. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton, 1-877-532-5797, or you can go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net. I'm reading Jeffrey Benoit is giving me a writing in on our live stream. Okay, I got you, Reverend Benoit. Lisa Robinson. I'm going to read all this while we doing our break. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Good morning. When I was very young, coming into my teen years, just approaching them, and I began being mentored by civil rights leaders and ministers. A teacher at that time in the movement, a movement teacher, began having me read books, not only about movement and about theology, but about visualization and controlling my mind and projection of thought. And one of the lessons he taught me was to begin to act, not only visualize who and what you wanted to become, Al. He said, act like it. Take on the personality, the bearing, the carriage, the thinking of what and who you wanted to become. Take it on now and grow into it. Let your behavior be like you've already become who you dream of becoming. So much so that some of the old folks in the church would say he acts like an old man. And there's something about that I found over the years to be true. If you take on the countenance and temperament, going back to our weekend assignment, of the person that you ultimately seek and have this insatiable appetite to be, you will grow into actualizing that in your reality. Already wear the crown even before you sit on that throne. Have the regal bearing, thinking, behavior, and impact, so that when your reality actualizes, you getting there, you already fit there because you have already made yourself become that. So your reality will complement what you've already not only desired to be, but have refined yourself to be by your behavior, by your thinking, by your action, by your manners, by what you engage, by what you entertain, by what you converse with, by what you allow in your presence, by what you don't allow, by the boundaries you set. You're already behaving and have become what your reality will make your actual place. Whatever it is you're seeking to become, start acting, thinking, and behaving like that now. And like a magnet, you will draw all of that into your actual reality, because you're already there before you arrived. Good morning. When I was very young, coming into my teen years, just approaching them, and I began being mentored by civil rights leaders and ministers, a teacher at that time in the movement, a movement teacher, began having me read books not only about movement and about theology, but about visualization and controlling my mind and projection of thought. And one of the lessons he taught me was to begin to act, not only visualize who and what you wanted to become, Al. He said, act like it. Take on the personality, the bearing, the carriage, the thinking of what and who you wanted to become. Take it on now and grow into it. Let your behavior be like you've already become who you dream of becoming. So much so that some of the old folks in the church would say he acts like an old man. And there's something about that I found over the years to be true. If you take on the countenance and temperament, going back to our weekend assignment, of the person that you ultimately seek and have this insatiable appetite to be, you will grow into actualizing that in your reality. Already wear the crown even before you sit on that throne. Have the regal bearing, thinking, behavior, and impact, so that when your reality actualizes, you getting there, you already fit.
You're live, sir.
Keeping it real. Keeping it real. Keeping it real. I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. Let's go back to George in Georgia. Go ahead, George.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You go ahead. You on the air?
All right. I got to cut you down. I got you on YouTube streaming.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
You had me in the book of Thessalonians, so go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, like I said, Reverend Al Sharpton, I'm a Christian. I'm not one of those fake Christians now.
Right.
I'm a real Christian. You know?
Right.
So I want you to know where I'm coming. God has done so much for me, saved my life. I was at the gates of death. He's been right there with me. But this gentleman, this individual, Donald Trump, I want to warn the people, and I want them to be very aware. I'm not telling nobody to give up the fight and not speak out and not, show their voice. But I really believe he's the one that's spoken of in the book of Revelation. There's been no individual in the history of that wields the power that he possesses. Nowhere in world history. No Nero, Caesar, none of these people had nuclear weapons and worldwide reach. The book of Revelations in Daniel speaks of an individual who would have worldwide reach and the ability to implement certain things. You're looking at people like Elon Musk, working with these satellites in the sky, controlling all these different agencies and entities. I mean, this is no coincidence. God's word does not lie.
Mm-hmm.
We must, along with protests, along with speaking out, we must get in prayer before God. The word of God promised that his people will do exploits in the time of the tribulation of Revelation. But in order for us to do exploits and to do exploits, it means we still will live and we will prosper. But we're going to have to be in obedience to God.
No, I thank George, and a lot of people have, and thank you for your call, and thank you for the memories of Aretha at Radio City. But I think a lot of people may worship and relate to God different ways, and certainly I'm a true believer. I'm in the Baptist denomination, grew up Pentecostal. But that's why I start every morning in prayer and meditation. I believe that. I start every morning. I get up about 4 in the morning, go in prayer and meditation, do some reading. About 5:15, go to the gym. That's if I don't have to do morning Joe at 6 o'clock. I got to do morning Joe. I'll get up at 3 and do it. And at night, I do the same thing, prayer and meditation before I go to bed. I think that we must, and I'm not offending anybody, I hope, that doesn't believe, or whatever belief you're in, you should believe and practice it now. Because this is spiritual warfare as much as it is political. For people to see people for a person to see people in an airplane and a helicopter go down in the waters at the bottom of the Potomac River, and without even waiting to call their families after they're identified, jump on worldwide television and say it was DEI. These are some wicked, Bob, I talked about it at the Saturday rally for you to watch it. Wickedness in high places. There's something wicked about that. I mean, something beyond politics. It's wicked to talk about people shouldn't have the land that they were owned, operated until white supremacists took over in South Africa. And if y'all dare touch that land, I'm going to take the money. Something wicked about that. Some things go beyond politics. And I mean, you got me on that. You were right about that. Let me, and I'm watching those that's writing, Mawak, I'm checking you out, Cakes, talking about you coming to the convention, who's going to stay in Harlem at the convention. You right? Sign up now. Sign up now. They have a beautiful hotel now on 125th Street, right there by the Apollo. A lot of people can stay there. But we need to be in New York the 2nd through the 5th of April. All free, everything at the convention. But if there ever was a time, and that's where we're going to give our findings on where we're going to boycott at the convention, April 2nd through the 5th. All right, let me go back to the phones. I'm reading y'all and looking at the screen for the phone calls. Let me go to Calvin in Cleveland, Ohio, WERE. Calvin.
Yes, hello, Al Sharpton. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm very well. First of all, I've been listening to you for a very long time, and I was born and raised in a Christian home by Pastor Elder Levi Butts. And I would like for you to look into a church, Williams Temple Church of God in Christ in Cleveland, Ohio.
Williams Temple?
Yes, Williams Temple. It's a historical church. Williams Temple Church of God in Christ.
Right, okay. I think I've heard of it. I grew up in the Church of God in Christ. I think I've heard of it.
And, yes, the roof caved in on it, and the church is just sitting there. No one is trying to repair the church or anything. And we always talking about bishops and pastors with accountability, having accountability when these type of things happen. It was a beautiful church. If you do your homework on it, background on it, you'll see that you'll ask yourself, why is this happening? In Cleveland, Ohio, we don't have no one like you, brother. And we missing that in a lot of these cities and states. Way before the COVID happened, it's a lot of greed. I deliver medical supplies to elderly patients, and it's like a ministry to me. It really touches my heart to do it. And I look at these apartment buildings that I deliver to and these houses that I deliver to in the Democratic area, poor areas. And we ask ourselves over and over again, what have Democrats or Biden done over and over again? What have Obama done? Because a lot of these areas, there's no change. A lot of these programs are there, but there's no accountability after the money up top comes down to these programs. There's no accountability to make sure that a lot of these areas, buildings, and people are well taken care of. The people, we must say again, the people.
Yeah, well, I certainly understand that. And I'm going to look, I wrote it down here, Williams Temple Church of God in Christ. Thank you for your call. And let me also say this.
I'll try one more thing quickly. On that plane crash, let's go to the plane crash. On the plane crash, I want to know, have you heard about Kia Duggins?
No.
Kia Duggins was a graduate student from Harvard. She was on that plane.
The one in Washington?
I have not heard. Yes, the plane crash in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
It's almost like sometimes people.
Hello?
Yes.
Go ahead. It's almost. I heard you say it's almost like what? Go ahead.
Sometimes when people do something wrong and they almost like put the blame on somebody else. So Kia Douglas was an attorney from Harvard.
Right.
He graduated from Harvard. He was an attorney, a civil rights attorney, young, bright future, could be or could have been the president of the United States. She met with Obama. She wrote pages. She had a project that she was going to do. That's one of yours and one of ours was to be. I just wanted you to know I'll ask you, can you look into that?
I got it. I wrote her name down. We should feature her. Thank you for your call. And let me say this. You hit it right. What Obama and Biden got done got down to local areas, and they did not distribute it right. That's why we got to vote some of these people out. I think Obama and Biden could have done more, but they did do some things that never got to the people. But thank you for your call, and you got a great leader there in Cleveland with our chapter leader there, as well as Reverend Cavaness and Marcia McCoy. Check them out. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back. Keeping it real. Where Frederick Douglass lay. Don't stand on the ground where Rosa Parks lay, unless you're going to really do what it is we committing to do. Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against wickedness, principalities, wickedness in high places. I want everyone, if you're resolved, to just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name, Al Sharpton, do solemnly commit that I will stand up and rise up in the name of Dr. King, in the name of Frederick Douglass, in the name of Rosa Parks, and I will defend equality for all, diversity, equality, inclusion, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, immigration rights. I take this oath that I will not become like those I'm fighting. I'm not for violence, but I will peacefully stand against those that want to bring us down. I commit this in the house of God, on this sacred ground. So help me God. Congratulate yourself. People with big dreams. People with big dreams and that begin operating, acting, and behaving in accord with those dreams by clothing themselves in their every word out of their mouth and every thought they allow to lay and rest in their brain is totally committed to the big dream they have in life, the big dreams they are determined to achieve. Others around you and I had dreams, but they couldn't get past their demons rather than confront their demons and defeat them or at least neutralize them. They justified them. So they became part of their permanent landscape rather than something they had neutralized and eradicated. But those of us that kept dreaming, that kept going forward, despite being mocked and criticized, even in our small family circles and friend circles, all that's a test to dream past them mocking you. Who you think you are? Why are you acting like that? You're not so-and-so. Yes, but I'm gonna be. That's how you have to behave. And you may think it's rehearsal. I just think it's the performance backstage before I go center stage. So I'm behaving this way because that's who I'm going to be when the world sees me center stage. Now, when the world, and your world could be big, small, could be just in your little local job or business, or it could be big. But when the world sees you, know that there are going to be some people that see you differently. Some going to praise you, some going to embrace you, some going to criticize you. But emotional maturity is letting people go ahead and respond and react, knowing their narrative. Somebody wrote this, knowing their narratives have nothing to do with who you really are. So let them run their mouth or write what they're going to write, say what they're going to say, text whatever they're going to text. It had nothing to do with your reality. It had nothing to do with who you are. Because if your voice held no power, they wouldn't be trying to silence your voice. So the more they try to silence you, the more you know the power of your voice. And the more you move forward anyhow. Know that who deep down inside you want to become is just trying to break out of the inside into your external, which is why I started saying, I started this morning thought saying to be very, very committed to assuming the persona of who you want to be and be that until you become that. Don't only practice visualization, behave in a way that leads to actualization. And you will become your fondest dream. And others will continue to embrace.
Are you keeping it real?
Yeah, I'm keeping it real.
Keeping it real? Of course, all the time.
Played a role in restraining the 30-year-old.
I'm looking at the video. You got one man choking and the other holding him down. They all need to be in front of a grand jury. No justice.
And now, America's #1 civil rights leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
You're live.
Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797, or you can watch it now live on www.nationalactionnetwork.net or on YouTube. Denise Stegall, I'm reading you on the page saying the caller about funds coming to the states once arrived, if the gap in local control, those funds never reach targeted areas. I experienced that firsthand. Approved for youth, funds released, canceled. And that's what I was saying. She's absolutely right. The other part of that, I did look up the Professor Kia Dugans, and she went to Howard. I heard about her, not Harvard. She went to Howard University. I think he said that she went to Harvard. That's what threw me off. Yeah, this woman's civil rights lawyer was at Howard University, and she was in the plane. And the disgrace of what Donald Trump did, blame it on DEI. No blacks at all now involved in either in the control tower or on the plane or in the helicopter. But immediately he come out with DEI. I don't know what you got to understand before you understand what we're dealing with. Or maybe you do understand and just don't want to deal with it. Let me welcome to the show, as we do every Tuesday this hour, the senior pastor of the First Corinthian Baptist Church in Harlem and member of the National Board of National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Michael A. Walron. How you doing, Reverend?
Pretty good, Reverend Sharpton. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. You know, I got up, I wake up early in the morning to work out, and I got up and I had to wipe my eyes because when I was sitting at my desk after my meditation, you had on a clergy collar. Figuring, I said, wait a minute now. Walron wearing a clergy collar. I started to call you, but it was 5 o'clock in the morning. I didn't want to do that to your wife. I just want you to know I follow you on Instagram. I said, now wait a minute now. What is this?
Rev, let me tell you. I wish I could say you were the only one who saw that, but I've gotten numerous text messages from friends alike who all said the same. One of my friends who passes in Texas said he saw it on Sunday. He said, I woke up from sleeping,
right,
and I picked up my phone and I looked at Instagram. He said, I had to rub my eyes to make sure what I was really looking at. No. Yeah, Sunday was first Sunday of Black History Month, of course.
Right.
And we did something called hats, hymns, and robes.
Oh,
Throwback
okay.
Sunday. Yeah.
All
so
right.
everyone that day at SCBC, I can't even count how many ladies were in the building with hats. Everyone with suits. We had all our ministers had on robes or clerical garb. The ushers, Rev, just show how old school it was, Rev. All the ushers had on black and white gloves, Rev.
That's Black History there now.
We went old school.
Yeah, that's Black History there now. That's back to Washington Temple when I was 5, 6 years old. I know about that now.
Right. So, I mean, but here's the thing. everybody loved it, and of course, everybody's like, Rev, I think we should do this on First Sunday, where we, especially with clergy. But I know it's a shock to many people's system. Here's the wild thing: I have not worn a robe in FCBC. That was the first time, Rev, in 16 years.
Wow. Wow.
16 years. So it was historic.
Yeah, you made some black history. Yeah, well, I want you to know we be following you. Let me read Craig. Craig Stingley said that I would suggest that all of you take a look at the video on Kia Duggins. It's plausible that the D.C. plane crash was an effort, and I think everybody should look at that video. Thank you, Craig. And let me ask you, Reverend Walron, you brought up about Black History Month, which we're in the just in the fourth day of, and a guy gave me a book the other day on the lost memory of Joseph Jackson, who was president of the Baptist Convention. Real well-written research book. I didn't even know it was out. Talk about how the black church, and this is for people whether you are Christian, Baptist, Pentecostal, Methodist, or not, but the role the black church played in history coming out of slavery until recent time. Talk about the history of the black church as it relates to black history.
Yeah, I think what many people have to know is that what we call the creation, the official, I would say, institutional formation of the black church comes as an act of rebellion, not only against slavery, but white supremacy and the white supremacist tactics that were alive within the mainstream churches. For sure, slaves, but then newly freed African Americans were not allowed in these white congregations, and if they were, they had to sit at a very particular part in the balcony. And a lot of the language and rhetoric was very antithetical to their very being. And so you get like the Richard Allens of the AME Church and Absalom Jones and all those persons who started founding these churches. Even some churches, like First African Baptist Church in Savannah, is founded and built while slavery is still going on.
Right.
And there were people who literally gave money to build the church, money they could have used to buy their freedom, but they found it more a more powerful thing to build a church before they bought their freedom. I just think when I know that history always, it humbles me, it blows my mind that there were people who were a step away from freedom but rather invested in this church, because the churches were really the first free black spaces that we owned.
Right.
Right? So it was not only an institution rebelling against white supremacy and slavery, but it also becomes the space and place where we actually had ownership that would belong to our community. And this is why historically the black church was the epicenter of the community, and it was at the heart of our community, not just religiously or spiritually, but socially, economically, politically, and culturally.
And it was the first place we could legally congregate. We were not allowed to assemble.
Yep. So that the church becomes you couldn't imagine all the organizations we're talking about, Rev, whether it's Freemasonry, whether it is civic organizations, all those organizations were housed in the churches.
Right.
You know, you was nothing to go to church on Sunday, prayer meeting, and then you had a Masonic meeting. Then you had a social justice meeting.
Right.
Then you had maybe a community play, something with the arts. It was at the center of everything.
Yeah, black colleges, black businesses, black
colleges.
politics.
On and on.
Black politics, when they went to Reconstruction, how blacks were elected started in the black church. That was the only place we could assemble.
And on top of it, you had clergy who were among some of the first elected officials during Reconstruction.
That's correct.
Right?
Right.
So it was the incubator. It was the heart of our communities historically. And then you begin to see this kind of shifting during the civil rights movement, not negatively, and this is kind of leading up to what you said. when you talk about the civil rights movement and the role of the church. You know, J.H. Jackson, I think, tragically, and you mentioned him, tragically, historically, has been known by many as the president of the convention who didn't support the civil rights movement.
Right.
And I think that it is true, but I think it is a tremendous reductionism because J.H. Jackson was a very pivotal figure in the black church.
Right.
Because at that time, the National Baptist Convention was the largest religious organization of African Americans in the country. But nonetheless, they did not officially support the civil rights movement that led, as you know, to the splitting and formation of the Progressive Convention, led by people like, you know, Garner Taylor and Bill Jones and a host of others, and Dr. King,
right,
who became part of the Progressive Convention. But the black church still serves that purpose, that role. I think the challenge is, Rev, now is that in a time of declining numbers in congregations across the spectrum, whether they be white, black, Latino, African, you know, whatever it is, there is a decline in church membership. I think it impacts us in a very significant way because prior to this decline, the average African American congregation in the United States had 75 members, which meant that the average black pastor in the country was also bivocational for the most part.
Right.
So we see those images of the large mega churches, but that is not the norm. Those are anomalies in our community. You know, no matter how much, you know, attention they get, they're still an anomaly. A 5,000 member congregation in the black church experience is an anomaly. It is not the norm. So when you hear, you know, the early studies from Lawrence Mamaya and Sierra Lincoln that talked about the average size of African American congregations being at from 75 to 100, that's true. Those numbers are probably even lower now, which means that many of our institutions now are engaged in institutional survival. You've heard me say this for years. So what it means is that you have a lot of our congregations as a whole trying to figure out how to survive. How do we continue to make it? How do we pay bills? And then the pandemic, as you know, really caused a lot of our congregations to shut down or close. The tragedy is that more did not merge, but that could have been a whole another set of issues. But I think that we're in this crossroads where many of our congregations have to really think about what does it mean to be relevant and what does it mean for our institutions to thrive in this moment? And then lastly, what does it mean to be politically engaged in an age in the second term of Trump?
Let's take a break. We're going to the phones. Reverend Dr. Michael A. Walron, Sharpton, keeping it real. We're going to be right back. You can watch us live on www.National Action Network or YouTube. We're live streaming as we're talking on the radio. In fact, we got a picture of Dr. Walron up without his collar, so y'all can see, y'all around the country, see what he looks like with his G look. What do they call that? All right. I'll get the right term. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Be right back.
Breaking news.
Into my teen years, just approaching them, and I began being mentored by civil rights leaders and ministers. A teacher at that time in the movement, a movement teacher, began having me read books, not only about movement and about theology, but about visualization and controlling my mind and projection of thought. And one of the lessons he taught me was to begin to act, not only visualize who and what you wanted to become, Al. He said, act like it. Take on the personality, the bearing, the carriage, the thinking of what and who you wanted to become. Take it on now and grow into it. Let your behavior be like you've already become who you dream of becoming. So much so that some of the old folks in the church would say he acts like an old man. And there's something about that I found over the years to be true. If you take on the countenance and temperament, going back to our weekend assignment, of the person that you ultimately seek and have this insatiable appetite to be, you will grow into actualizing that in your reality. Already wear the crown even before you sit on that throne. Have the regal bearing, thinking, behavior, and impact, so that when your reality actualizes, you getting there, you already fit there because you have already made yourself become that. So your reality will complement what you've already not only desired to be, but have refined yourself to be by your behavior, by your thinking, by your action, by your manners, by what you engage, by what you entertain, by what you converse with, by what you allow in your presence, by what you don't allow, by the boundaries you set. You're already behaving and have become what your reality will make your actual place. Whatever it is you're seeking to become, start acting, thinking, and behaving like that now. And like a magnet, you will draw all of that into your actual reality, because you're already there before you arrive. Good morning. When I was very young, coming into my teen years, just approaching them, and I began being mentored by civil rights leaders and ministers, a teacher at that time in the movement, a movement teacher, began having me read books, not only about movement and about theology, but about visualization and controlling my mind and projection of thought. And one of the lessons he taught me was to begin to act, not only visualize who and what you wanted to become, Al. He said, act like it. Take on the personality, the bearing, the carriage, the thinking of what and who you wanted to become. Take it on now and grow into it. Let your behavior be like you've already become who you dream of becoming. So much so that some of the old folks in the church would say he acts like an old man. And there's something about that I found over the years to be true. If you take on the countenance and temperament, going back to our weekend assignment, of the person that you ultimately seek and have this insatiable appetite to be, you will grow into actualizing that in your reality. Already wear the crown even before you sit on that throne. Have the regal bearing, thinking, behavior, and impact, so that when your reality actualizes, you getting there, you already fit there because you have already made yourself become that. So your reality will complement what you've already not only desired to be, but have refined yourself to be by your behavior, by your thinking, by your action, by your manners, by what you engage, by what you entertain, by what you converse with, by what you allow in your presence, by what you don't allow, by the boundaries you set. You're already behaving and have become what your reality will make your actual place. Whatever it is you're seeking to become, start acting, thinking, and behaving like that now. And like a magnet, you will draw all of that into your actual reality, because you're already there before you arrive. You're live. Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. Keeping it real. And we're back. Reverend Dr. Michael A. Walron is our co-host. 1-877-532-5797. And Lady Virgo, thank you for your message. I'm reading some of you on the live page as we do the show. Let's go back to the phones, Reverend Walron. Let's go to Andre, number 5 in Atlanta, Georgia. Andre.
Good afternoon, Reverend, and to Reverend Walron.
Good afternoon.
Rev, prior to the November election, many of us sounded the alarm about Project 2025 and how Project 2025 would be implemented by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance if they were elected, which is exactly what we're all seeing play out right now. Project 2025 was published as a 900-plus page document by a right-wing extremist organization called the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation could have saved a lot of time and money by hiring me to put that publication together, because I could have reduced that 900-plus page document down to only 2 words: MAGA Shakedown.
Wow.
MAGA Shakedown summarizes everything anyone needs to know about Project 2025. MAGA Shakedown summarizes everything anyone needs to know about how Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are running this current white supremacy administration. We see their MAGA Shakedown when they request not just of government agencies, but of private businesses to disclose whether or not they have a DEI program in place and how it works. And by the way, private businesses should respond to such inquiries by saying none of your blankety blank business.
Right.
We see their MAGA shakedown when they suppress education in our school systems so that children of all races will not learn that white wealth in this country was obtained by murder and theft at gunpoint and by forced free labor. We see their MAGA shakedown when they tell Republican senators and representatives that if they don't march in lockstep with the slave master's orders, that they will be primaried. We see their MAGA shakedown when they insist that rank-and-file career FBI agents fill out a form detailing their roles in the January 6th investigation. And speaking of that investigation, by the way, let me remind MAGA world that the only reason that such a large number of FBI agents were even involved in that January 6th investigation was because on the day of that attempted overthrow of our government, all of those white, Trump-loving, racist, police-beating, low-life thugs who committed crimes were granted their white privilege by not being arrested and were allowed to simply leave the scene of their crimes so that they could go home and watch TV and sleep in their nice, warm beds. Because they were granted their white privilege, instead of being shot dead or handcuffed and arrested like black people would have been who smashed windows and beat police officers, hundreds of FBI agents were then needed to identify all of those racist thugs. Hundreds of FBI agents were then needed to find all of those racist thugs. If we had a justice system in this country that treated black and white people the same, we would not have needed hundreds of FBI agents to find those criminals, because they would have either been shot dead at the scene of committing battery upon police officers, or at the very least, they would have been handcuffed and hauled off to jail at the scene of their crime. MAGA shakedown. That summarizes everything that anyone needs to know about this administration and about Project 2025. Shock and awe is not shock and awe for this administration. It is expected and awful. And Rev, a couple of things that concern me about this administration that I almost guarantee you will occur while Trump and J.D. Vance are running this MAGA shakedown in Washington, and one of which you touched upon earlier today. What's going to happen when we see a thug with a badge kill and or violate the civil rights of one of our black citizens in the next 4 years? Is a Pam Bondi-run Justice Department going to seek justice? I think that racist cops are going to feel more comfortable and more emboldened to mistreat Americans of color during these next 4 years. And the other concern I have is that we've seen even some Republican judges rule against Trump and J.D. Vance during these short 2 weeks of this administration. But what happens if Trump and Vance at some point thumb their noses at a judge's ruling, which I can see happening, and say, screw you, we're steering this ship the way we want to steer it, and defy a court ruling? In effect, telling a judge, if you don't like it, come and get us.
Well, I think that's not an extreme thought. I mean, it is extremely possible.
Yeah, who's going to enforce that court's ruling? The FBI, that's being run by Kash Patel? The U.S. Marshal Service, whose director takes orders from the Attorney General? Who enforces a court ruling if this MAGA shakedown administration defies a court ruling? This is why our senators should not confirm any of these unqualified Trump flunkies to these cabinet-level positions. And lastly, quickly, I once referred to Mar-a-Lago on your show, Rev, as the McDonald's drive-through for U.S. intelligence information for this nation's adversaries around the world. Well, look for it to become even worse now, because I believe that under this current administration that the menu items are about to expand, that the prices are about to drop, and we're now going to have Donald Trump and Tulsi Gabbard working that drive-through window at Mar-a-Lago. So look for it to get even worse than it was before. And let us always remember that truth is optional in MAGA world. Sharpton, keeping it real. Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you, as always, for your
I
call.
like that.
Yeah, he said a lot there, didn't he, Reverend?
He sure did. He sure did. But all worth paying attention. I think, Rev, we're realizing that who we have in D.C. representing us is more important than ever before, and we see why it's important. So I hope we can turn this into narratives to help people understand why voting is so critical.
Yeah.
Because it determines who represents us.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton, Walron, right after this. Keeping it real. It look good. Don't stand on the ground where Rosa Parks lay, unless you're going to really do what it is we committing to do. Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against wickedness, principalities, wickedness in high places. I want everyone, if you are resolved, to just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name, Al Sharpton, do solemnly commit that I will stand up and rise up in the name of Dr. King, in the name of Frederick Douglass, in the name of Rosa Parks, and I will defend equality for all, diversity, equality, inclusion, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, immigration rights. I take this oath that I will not become like those I'm fighting. I'm not for violence, but I will peacefully stand against those that want to bring us down. I commit this in the house of God on this sacred ground. So help me God. Congratulate yourself.
You're live.
Keeping it real. Keeping it real. Keeping it real. I'm your host. Keeping it real. Reverend Al Sharpton. Reverend Dr. Michael A. Walron is our guest, is our co-host every week at this time. And I'm reading Angela Bishop says, Reverend Al Sharpton, I'd like to add that I am happy to watch you in the digital space, YouTube. As a digital creator, I appreciate you for all that you do to uplift us. Well, thank you, Angela. Getting a lot of people responding. This is the first day we're digital. Let me remind you also to watch every Saturday and Sunday Politics Nation with Al Sharpton live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And I've been working the phones. We have a lot coming at you this week with these confirmations of the Robert F. Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard looks like she may be confirmed. Then the FBI Director Patel. We're going to deal with how we protect ourselves, what this means, what is all of this with South Africa and Donald Trump. A lot of people I'm going to have on in the Senate and trying to get someone from South Africa. Make sure you watch Politics Nation Saturday and Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I know that, and we had great ratings this weekend. We were even on Grammy night. So I know some of y'all be on Super Bowl stuff, but we 5 to 6 Eastern, so you won't miss the Super Bowl. And make sure you tune in and don't tune out. You that are in the tri-state area, meet me or beat me to the Saturday Action Rally at the House of Justice in Harlem, 145th Street and Lenox Avenue, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and Saturday mornings. I'll be there looking for you. And you that are not in the New York area can listen or watch live on Impact Television. You can watch it live on Impact Television, the only black-owned national gospel, only a black-owned black gospel network. And you can listen live on WBLS 107.5 FM or watch it live stream on nationalactionnetwork.net. You in the Southern California area, I will be in California day after tomorrow, Thursday, where I'm the keynote speaker for the memorial for 4 of the families, black families killed by the wildfires. Evelyn McClendon, Earlene Kelly, Rodney Nickerson, all of those that was made their fatality in the Eaton, Altadena area. Donald Trump and them went out and went to Palisades, and others never went to Altadena. We're going to Altadena, and then we're having a memorial service 11 a.m. sharp at the First AME Church, 1700 North Raymond Avenue in Pasadena. Reverend Dr. Larry Campbell's right near Altadena. Ben Crump will be there, many of our others. We need to stand up and support what's going on with the victims' families. You know, one of the things that we've got to watch is that once it go out the media, people forget. It was just last week these people burned to the ground all over those areas. But the plane crash takes it out, and we can't forget people that need help. So we're going. Zaire, one of the brothers, asked me on Politics Nation would I come, and we'll be there Thursday. And I'm coming right back. I'll be at the Saturday rally and be on the air here on Friday. I'll be here tomorrow. Let me ask Reverend Dr. Walrod what's going on at First Corinthian Baptist Church, FCBC.
Well, Rev, I had to follow up what you just said. I was in L.A. on January 18th we had services there, and were there for a few days supporting many of the people who were going through and dealing with the fires at the time. So we have a congregation out there. So I was there then. I'll be back there next week with the congregation. And so it was traumatizing. We always think about those who lost homes, lost lives. But the one thing we don't talk about, it hasn't been consistently talked about, is those who were traumatized.
Right.
And I say traumatized because you had people who are constantly getting alerts to evacuate. They leave. Well, you can come back. They come back, and they got another notice to evacuate 2 days later.
Wow.
So you had this back and forth, a lot of uncertainty. Should I stay? Should I go? You know, you could see the fires making their way to some of those people in their neighborhood. So all of the people who didn't lose a home or they knew anyone who lost their life, but the amount of emotional trauma, especially those who've never experienced this before, because there's a lot of transplants in the L.A. area. A lot of our congregants are transplants to L.A. It's really traumatizing. So it was having those conversations with people, and I think I had a member there, Rev, who couldn't sleep at night because their apartment, the building they lived in, was a building that had been renovated because of a previous fire. So she was constantly getting alerts. But if you've already lived through that one time and you get another alert that you might have to evacuate for fires again, so you have people like that who really had some emotionally charged reactions to everything that was taking place. And I hope people just keep those people in mind, too, because they're still emotionally recovering from it.
Wow. Wow. Let's go to Angela in North Carolina. Angela. Is Angela there?
Who's again?
Angela, North Carolina, 96.
Yes, can you hear me?
I hear you. Yes, ma'am.
Reverend Al, I just want to say God bless you. God bless you.
Well, thank
He
you.
has blessed you with many gifts, and you have blessed the world. So when is your Nobel Peace Prize coming?
Well,
I mean, I'm serious.
Well,
I'm not joking with it. It's time.
I appreciate you saying that. Well, my prize is you saying that. Thank you for your call. Let me go to David in Washington, D.C., WOL.
Yes, thank you, Reverend Marwan, and thank you, Reverend Sharpton. And I thank God for the anointment that is on both of your lives that allows you to do the educating and the things that you are doing. I just want to bring up a couple of points. Look at where Secretary of State Rubio is today. He's in Costa Rica as I speak. Yesterday, he was in El Salvador. And look what he accomplished in El Salvador. El Salvador has agreed to take back prisoners, even the possibility of sending to American prisoners
Right.
to some of the most notorious prisons in the world. Okay? They are realigning. You're absolutely right. This is demonic, what is happening all across the world. They're sending out their tentacles. And we as Christians, I thank God for the brothers who are speaking up today, the Christians. It's more than physical. It's spiritual. And I'm praying for you. I'm God. I'm praying for each of you every night, Reverend Moran and Reverend Sharpton, that this thing, the Christians stand up. I just thank God for you.
I appreciate your call. Let's go to Andre J. in Chicago, Illinois. Andre.
Hello, good evening to you, both of you, Reverend and Reverend Walron. I just want to say real quickly, Reverend, sometimes a person has to be political without sounding political. And that new chairman of the Democratic Party, he sounded a little too political. Instead of him calling for unity amongst the Democratic elected officials, he went on talking about the working class people, which was fine, but I don't think the time was right. To answer your question about why these white ladies are not out protesting, picketing, they were the beneficiary from DEI. Well, it's just like, Reverend, when you passed out them turkeys there for people, a lot of people ate them turkeys. Maybe they didn't even know where those turkeys came from. So I think that they need to be educated as to how they benefited from DEI. And then that would maybe feel different about it because they really don't know that they benefited from DEI. Because when they hire you, they don't say, well, you are DEI hire. They don't tell people that. So them white women, I believe they don't know that they are DEI high. So if they educated, then they'll be more willing to protest against it, Rev. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, I thank you for your call. I think that the leaders, though, of some of the women's organizations, some of the advocacy groups, know and should be saying and should be standing up with us. The thing, Dr. Walron, that has bothered me is not a lot of other groups, not only women, but some other black civil rights groups have not been out there. I mean, we've been out there every week doing, boycotts, going to Costco, supporting them for supporting us, getting ready for this 90 days to announce a boycott. And, very few of the national civil rights groups have said much of anything, and certainly not the Latino groups and the women groups. But that's part of the cross you bear, because you can't get angry and say, since everybody else is not as aggressive, I'm not going to do anything, because then the people are left with nothing. And then at the same time, you get out there, then people go, here go Sharpton and them again, trying to dominate everything. You're going to get it no matter what. So you just do what you got to do because you know it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely right, Rev. But I also think that the strategy of Trump and his allies and the puppet masters is really to create this kind of dizzying effect in the country. There's a constant bombardment every day with executive orders, decisions, illegal moves that require lawsuits. Even what was mentioned earlier by caller about the idea of El Salvador housing not just deportees, but violent U.S. criminals. Like
American citizen criminals, yeah.
American citizens. This is a legal issue. So I think the strategy is very clear. We're going to do everything we can possibly try, test the limits of the law, see what causes lawsuits and fight back. This is what they're doing, but it's so much that we're being hit with every day. It's having this kind of dizzying effect. And when you get that, I mean, emotion, it's a psychological tool that people then just stop engaging because it's too much. That's the hope, that people stop engaging. Activism slows down because it feels like it's just too daunting and too much. And I think it's intentional what they're doing. I mean, we know it's intentional, but I think it's having an impact because many people feel overwhelmed already, but they're doing a lot of things that are troubling and problematic.
No doubt about it. And I keep telling people, if you think you overwhelmed now, you stay silent and let them finish their agenda.
That's right.
You'll be underwhelmed and underwater. Let me thank Reverend Dr. Michael A. Walron. Let me thank all of you that called in, listened in, you that called in and couldn't get through, but hung in there anyhow. Remember, whatever you do, wherever you go, however you feel, tell somebody, tell anybody, tell everybody. Reverend Al told you personally, keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real. I'll talk to you tomorrow.